What's up, guys, and welcome back for another EVE Online Planetary Industry video. This one is going to be coming kind of, somebody asked me in the comment section about skill priority or just like PI alt creation, and I figured I'd give you my methodology in terms of creating alts for PI, and this kind of is an overall theory on how I feel about alts in EVE anyway, and a lot of it is to do with making them as useful as possible, right? But I'm going to start off this video by talking primarily about the PI skills, what the priority or their importance are, and kind of what you should be looking at doing first. Now, the command center skill is by far the most important skill for a PI character if you're going to be doing it on an alt or even on your main. The command center skill itself is directly tied to how many installations you can put on a planet. Pretty much anything you see me do on this channel requires command centers 5. It will directly affect the amount of power and CPU resource you have, so it's going to affect the amount of extractor heads you can put on a planet, or the amount of factories you can put on a process planet. It literally will just, it's kind of like the limiter in a lot of situations. Now, in terms of which one should you be going for first, the interplanetary consolidation I usually don't do until I hit command center 5 on an alt, because I would prefer to only have 1 or 2 planets that I could put installations on, as long as I could put the maximum amount or the best configuration on those planets, instead of having 6 planets and only command centers 3, and then every time I upgrade to command centers 4 or I get command centers 5, I have to go back and revisit those planets and add more to them to make them efficient. So whenever I create a new PI alt, I essentially just queue up 1 through 5 of command centers, and then everything else I will train in after that. As far as planetology and remote sensing, you can go 3 and 3 on those. These are just going to allow you to look at planet, like remote sensing allow you to look at planets in your adjacent systems and stuff, and see their density and see their resources. The higher the skill, the further out you can kind of look. Planetology is going to be basically the resolution that you can see. The higher you have planetology and advanced planetology, the more accurate, or the more tight the heat or the resource heat map density or resolution will be. So it gives you a better idea. I usually don't go all the way max on all this with alts, unless they have just trained a bunch of other things to warrant it, because it does help, but only marginally. I mean, if you're going for just a bunch of alts and you're just going with, like, you know, volume, then you probably don't need to be super accurate on your resolution or your heat map for density. So 3 and 3 on this will work, and then you want 5 for interplanetary consolidation and command center upgrades. But I can't stress enough that command centers 5 should be the first thing that you train before you even start adding additional planet availability to your tune, because it's better to have 1 planet that you can max out to its full capacity than 6 planets that you can only do 30% efficiency on, right? Now, the other caveat to any alt in EVE is to make them useful in other ways, right? Like a mining alt, or any alt that just does one thing probably isn't going to contribute enough to justify its omega. So I try to train all of my alts to the point where they can earn their keep, so to speak. I'll talk about different ways that, you know, different skills you can kind of look into to help kind of utilize them as extra bodies. One of the first ones that I do, whenever I first start a PI alt, they'll automatically train Galante Hauler. This allows them to fly the epithal. The higher the skill, the more the planetary commodities hold will be. I usually stop somewhere around 3 or 4. But I also just try to get them into blockade runners, transport ships. Since the volume of PI is half of what it used to be, you can get a lot more use out of a like a crane or a blockade runner. My blockade runners will hold about 12.5k of volume. So, and they're also faster. So in terms of timing it, if I took an epithal and I went and picked up from 6 planets from the PACOs, from the Planetary Orbital Customs Office, and at the same time I was doing the same order and the same planets with another alt in a blockade runner, the blockade runner would finish first because it has faster AU per second, so it can go from point A to point B much quicker. Also, it has the ability to cloak mid warp and all that stuff, so it's a little bit more. It's easier to gate, especially if you're using alts and you have to do PI or extraction on more than just your home system. If you're doing PI on multiple different systems that you might have to gate resources back and forth, I would much prefer to take a blockade runner through a gate, especially in null, than an epithal. Those are just going to be slower to warp, no ability to cloak. They can hold more, but unless you're only picking up like once a week, I don't really justify that. So the biggest thing that my alts do is I train into blockade runner straight away. Let me see if I can pull up the fit for that. It's pretty standard across all of my tunes. So here it is right here. It's literally just cargo optimization 2s. It has a covert cloak. I have interdiction just in case you come out of a bubble in null and you or come out of a gate and you're into a bubble, and then just amps and stuff like that, and expanded cargo holds. This is what all of my PI alts will fly, and I pick up once or twice every 3 days or so, which this capacity in that thing is perfect for that. The other thing I try to do for all of my alts is I try to train them all into cynossural theory. So I try to make them all cyno alts, so that if I have to move jump freighters, or if I have to move any sort of capital ship or anything with a jump drive, all of my PI alts who are out there doing PI, I can kind of position them in a way to move stuff. The ship for that, let's see, where is my Venture Cyno? It's right here. And so this is just a pretty standard Venture Cyno. So I make sure they're all trained into this as well. It just gives them more utility, so that if you're running 10 PI alts, if somebody needs help moving a capital ship, you can say, hey, I have 10 alts that can pop a Cyno and help out. And that's what I like doing there as well. I also try to train them all into scanning, because also if they're in different systems, especially in null, the ability to be able to have a Heron or have a cheap scan ship that I can scan SIGs and whatever, it just gives me more availability without moving too much. So instead of having one scan alt that has to move to all these systems and scan stuff, I kind of just have these guys in place to be able to handle all that stuff. And also I try to make them mining alts as well. So this guy is he's also just command ship. But exhumers, I usually see covert ops is in here. Also just another utility, right? It's like if I need to go do some ice mining, or if I need to go do any type of mining, grab the PI alts are just sitting there doing nothing. Grab those guys. Those guys are trained to do mining. So, and then at the very least, or at the very last portion, after I get a lot of these other skills done, I'll try to put them in some sort of a ratting ship or combat ship. So if there's a situation where I want to take all these alts out and just do a bunch of ratting, there's that option as well too. And all of this is all beneficial because it helps kind of justify their existence in terms of the cost of Omega. I try to plex pretty much all of my accounts, but if every one of these alts is configured in a way to where they can add to the overall operation and justify their existence, then it makes it just so much easier. I know it's a really down and dirty kind of explanation, and really kind of the summary of it all is just try to make your alts as useful as possible in a bunch of different areas of the game. But in terms of PI skills, Command Center 5, straight up, put that skill in all the way to 5, get them all the way to 5, and then start working on your your interplanetary consolidation, and then your planetology and all that stuff. But if you want to do any of the configurations that you see me doing on this channel, you absolutely 100% need Command Centers 5. It just allows you to be more efficient, because Command Center, if you have like a alt that has like Command Center 2 or 3, if let's say you have two alts that have Command Center 3, they're single. You could take both of their planets and combine them, and they would still not be as efficient as one character with the one planet that has Command Center 5. So it's just a way of like, and I don't tend to add, I don't tend to add like 5 alts and then try to train them all up at once. So whenever I'm like scaling PI, and I think that's important, I create one alt, I get it trained out completely, I get it completely set up, and then when it's good to go, when it's kind of like doesn't need any more training or kind of like tinkering, then and if I need to, then I'll create the next alt, and then the next alt, and everything. The only I guess the only caveat to that would be is if I know I'm going to eventually have 5 PI alts, I will make all of the accounts and all the characters at the same time and let them sit in alpha state, so that they'll passively get the 5.5 million trained. That doesn't cost anything. That way, when I'm ready to turn them on to Omega, they have already done like all the alpha stuff. They can literally just kind of utilize that alpha or Omega time for doing things like Command Center and stuff like that. So almost all of my alts that I've ever created, I've always let them kind of sit and bake for like 5 to 6 months. I let them get that 5.5 million before I do anything with them, because that's just free training time, and that's just a really good way to, like, I don't know, save a buck on that kind of stuff. But hopefully this answers any questions that anyone had with what they should be focusing on in terms of PI skills and everything, and also potentially what other activities the PI alts can do to help earn their keep. But thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.